This is Infection, the survival podcast recorded live on Wednesday, July the 13th, 2022, episode 391. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome into another edition of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. My name is Nick Craig. You can check me out on various social media platforms by visiting my website, nickcraig.com, and checking out the Wilmington's Morning News podcast. You can do all of that at nickcraig.com, or visit our website, visit our website, infectionpodcast.com, where you'll find the latest information about this show and all of our episodes. I cannot do this thing alone. Joining me as he does each and every week, Brian with an I, Aldridge. Hello, Brian. Hope you're doing well.
I am doing wonderfully, and just so people know, we had our baby on, I think it was Sunday night. Is that the 10th? Sunday night?
That was the 10th, yes.
So. The days have kind of mixed together a little bit.
I'm sure.
I think I'm going to have to refresh my screen. I think I'm lagging. Are you seeing that for me?
No.
I'll do it after. Can you hear me fine, though?
Yeah. You sound and look fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, on my side, it was lagging a little bit, but I'll keep going. But yeah, we had our baby, and we've been in the hospital up until today. Got home a little bit earlier today, and he's doing great. Just had to make sure it was 9 minutes to midnight is when Tara delivered. So we've been there while they do tests and just made sure everything was good. He passed everything, and he's home. So that's exciting, and we're ready for that. My boys, our other boys, are super happy and excited to meet him, and it's a lot of fun. My nephews and some other people are coming over tonight to see him, so that'll be good. If you want to find me, though, on the internet, you can find me at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, Truth Social. I got rid of my Twitter account again.
What?
We'll see what happens with that. But they dropped the deal, so if they're going to maintain what they've been doing up in this point, I'm not going to go on there. I only went on there because there was a promise of free speech. You know, as far as there's a possibility of free speech coming back on the platform.
So you tweeted,
if it goes back to the old ways.
So you tweeted like 2 times, and now you're now you're gone again.
I think I tweeted like 3 times. I did an extra tweet, and then the news came out like the next day, and I was like, well, if he's not buying it, I'm not going to support these people, because one thing that I want to show them is when there was a thing saying he was going to buy it, this many people signed back up. When they heard that he wasn't, this many people left. I want them to see that. That's how do I always show? Because I've said this before. How do you show somebody that you support them?
But with your dollars.
Usually with your money or with whatever. For them, it has to do with accounts. And what they'll show and say, hey, look, we have this many accounts. That shows how successful we are. That's what they like to do. And so I just figured, well, it's the same old cesspool. That's pretty much most of what my tweets were. I've just seen the same old, and it's like I don't need to be on here. If they're going to continue what they've been doing up to this point, I don't need to be on there. So yeah,
you already pulled it off your website.
Yeah, off my website, deactivated.
Damn. It's
no longer there. So I moved on from that. But if you do, as Nick mentioned, my website, biteofcheck.com. So more than welcome to go check it out. No Twitter symbol up on there.
Wow.
But if you want to go to our website, infectionpodcast.com, we have on there, join our server on Discord. We got people playing Ark. We've got a news channel. So, for instance, if there's a game coming out, or if there's a topic or something that you think we should be talking about in the next show, throw it into that channel, and we review that before the live show starts. If you want to catch the video forms of the podcast, you can do that through Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive, and those are all live and recorded. There are a lot of times recordings after the fact that you can go view on there. If you want to listen to the podcast audio-only version, just go to the lower right-hand side. We've got links for all different types of ways to listen, but those are not uploaded until after the show is complete. But if you are doing that, that means that also there are show notes for that particular episode. So if you're going to listen, you can follow along and click various links for videos, articles, sources that maybe you want to look at while we're discussing it. That'll help you get a little more context, and that is all on the particular notes page. If you want to support the show, you can do that through the support tab up top, or you can go to infectionpodcast.com/support, where hopefully we'll be talking about some other different shows that are going to be coming up here soon and news on those. But perhaps someday we'll actually meet in person and do another show in person. Those are the best ones that I enjoy, is when we do the in-person shows, because it's such a fun dynamic to do that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. If you want to go ahead and refresh Brian now, I don't know whatever your whatever the latency issue is. We'll jump into some news here. I'm kind of a little bit of like a business and tech nerd. So I was watching CNBC this morning, which I fancy myself to do while right when I get off the air in the morning. The stock market opens at 9:30. I'm off the air at 9. And when they opened up the show at 9 o'clock, they showed like a roadmap of like everything that's coming up, and they're like a deal on Unity, and I was like, is that are they saying some companies have agreed to unify, or is this Unity that they're talking about? And it turns out it was actually Unity, the game development company. And Brian, this is a massive deal. They're merging with a group called big dollar signs. It's this group called ironSource. And it's a massive deal, $4.4 billion. Now it's a straight, stock deal. So they're essentially just buying out the stock. According to ironSource's Wikipedia platform, they describe themselves as this. They say ironSource is a global software company, that deals in developing technologies for apps dealing with monetization and digital advertising. So that is one of the, by the way, they have a cool domain, Brian. Their website is is.com. So they've got a really cool, they've got a really cool domain for that. And what they do is turning a platform into a business, successfully turning that into something that can generate revenue, which is something that, for Unity, with what it is doing as a mobile app developer predominantly, which, by the way, I didn't realize Pokemon Go was built on Unity. Did you know this?
Oh, no, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I had no idea. Jim Cramer was screaming about that on CNBC this morning, and I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's the main mobile game platform development software there is. And this is something I think we've kind of seen coming. We've talked about it, especially with Unreal 5 coming out, that they are going to have to accept that PC gaming and all of that is probably not in the future for them, because they're so heavily focused on mobile that when they're putting all their cards in that basket, it's hard to develop for two totally different types of environments. And you're starting to see it here. I mean, that's my take on it. You've read more about this, but this makes sense for where they're going, because I think they're trying to make more of a plug and play type of atmosphere for developers to be able to monetize and to turn on features inside of Unity, kind of make it more of a plug-in type of system for a lot of these things. Because I looked at some of the ways that they were looking at moving Unity in the past, and it's like, you can activate this feature and it'll give you all these statistics, and you activate this feature. It seems like they're just trying to make it easy for mobile developers, but very little is talked about with the PC platforms or even console platform type of development. So this makes sense if their goal is to help developers make mobile games and let them monetize them, because how many mobile games don't monetize anymore in that way? I mean, that's pretty much how it goes from here on out, is you get some sort of advertisements or some sort of a system for purchasing, packs and things like that. This sounds like kind of what they do, is making sure that you are turning a profit with whatever you're doing. And they have an app plugin for this too, so I would assume you could use it on a PC platform, but that seems to be frowned upon so far. So
while yes, Brian, I agree with a lot of what you just said, and that makes a lot of sense. It's not all rainbows and unicorns here. There are some serious problems that Unity's dealing with. So a little bit more detail on this. ironSource is being valued at $4.4 billion in the deal. It's an all-stock deal, so no cash, just stock. Part of the transaction will also involve two subsidiaries known as Silver Lake and Sequoia, I believe, is the other company, which are the two largest shareholders of Unity. Those two shareholders are going to dump in $1 billion into the Unity in the form of convertible notes after the transaction closes, which is expected to be actually relatively quick, Q4 of this year. So that's, we looked at, the Microsoft Activision deal, and obviously that's a significantly larger deal. I'm not making a comparison, but another large video game deal, it's taking months and months and months. They're expected to close by the end of the year. But it's, as I mentioned, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. Barron's got an article, or Barron's, I should say. Unity stock tanked today, Brian. It was down nearly 18% at the end of close, almost $7. It's trading at $32 a share, or just $32.80 a share right now. And the article over at Barron's, which I would recommend folks go and read, it's not even that long of an article. Unity stock is plunging. Investors are losing faith in the company's strategy. And I think that's what you just went into, Brian. The stock downfall today. They announced that they were, getting into this agreement with IS to purchase them for $4.4 billion. But this article mentions that Unity has had a bunch of these large acquisitions. Back in November, we mentioned that they acquired this Peter Jackson's movie visual effects company, Weta Digital. We talked a lot about that. That was a $1.6 billion acquisition for them on that. And for the investors into the company, they are a little timid, and maybe rightfully so. How are these? You're talking about a nearly $4.5 billion investment. Where is your ROI on that, Brian? How quickly is this going to pay dividends? And because apparently this Weta Digital acquisition that happened, nearly $2 billion for that, many investors feel that Unity is way overpaying for these companies and truly not getting what they need. I mean, this is a visual effects company that they spent $2 billion on.
Well, and you got to think, it's becoming a mobile platform.
Correct.
Really, it's becoming and that's just a weird purchase for something for mobile, because this is software that they use to make films and things like that. Sure, if you're going to make cutscenes for your mobile game, great. That's one thing you could use it before. But most people aren't making super high quality characters and visuals and videos for a mobile game. Most of Unity's bread and butter are the simple mobile games, puzzle games, and things that they're making a lot of little microtransactions off of. So I thought that was kind of weird that Unity got Weta Digital, just because it seems more like something that Epic should have purchased because of the type of games that they make. I think that for me, it felt more like they didn't want Epic to get it, so they bought it, because it would have been a really good, and it totally makes sense, because Weta Digital makes things like for Planet of the Apes, that digital Planet of the Apes and the super high resolution apes and all that.
They do the
it seems like
they do the live AR on like the Weather Channel and stuff, this live broadcast television stuff. They're doing a lot of stuff in the television and broadcast and movie space. I don't
like augmented reality type of things, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that's more in the line with what Unreal is doing. Because look at all of the Star Wars movies and all this. That's done in Unreal nowadays. All those sets are virtual sets in Unreal. What have you heard Unity doing with anything like that lately? I just feel like they tossed a bunch of money. They tossed a bunch of money at this, and there's not a real end game for that product. And then when you're putting billions of dollars into something that really has minimal effect, like these are ones that they're, things like Avatar, Wonder Woman, things with a lot of visual effects. And I don't think Unity when I think that, but you know what I do think? I do think Unreal, and I think Epic, because they've made it to where it makes sense for movie companies to use their product because it's so well done. Unity, the UI is pretty dated. And with the Unreal Engine 5 coming out, I think it really made people realize how out of date Unity is. Unreal Engine 4 was out of date. It had been out about quite a while, but they made a total replacement. Well, not a total, you can upgrade, but pretty much a replacement for it, using a lot of different features, a lot of new things. Unity hasn't changed that much. They keep buying these things, but it feels a lot like the same thing. And when you're making a lot of times 2D type of games, why do you need all this stuff? If half of your products are 2D games, how many people are making 2D games in Unreal? Not very many. Most are using high resolution, high fidelity.
It's actually very hard to make, from what I understand, it's very hard to make a 2D game in Unreal because it's not built for it at all. It's very complicated.
No. And if they're going this direction and kind of going away from the PC console type of platform, why not really focus on something that makes mobile games really well? Because I feel like that's what Unreal's doing. They're finding out what their bread and butter is, and they're trying to do that really well. Get all the top AAA games to start using their platform, and guess what? You get, 5% of every purchase, depending on how they do it. 5% of every purchase of the top AAA games. That'll keep them doing well. Here, I can't, there's a couple games that you can name with Unity, but most people probably couldn't name 10 PC games that use Unity.
No, I think you're right.
And some people, some of the top ones, they don't even realize it's Unity. And so I feel like they need to make a decision. And this kind of sounds like that's part of that decision. This is totally mobile. It's mostly monetization like this is a mobile type of thing. There's a lot of resistance to doing it on a PC and a console platform. When you put, what was it, $4.4 billion into it? Was that what the number was?
Yeah, that's the expected sell price, yeah.
$4.4 billion, that's kind of saying, hey, this is our direction. But
let me say this.
That makes sense.
I agree with you, but they spent nearly half of that back in November to buy a movie studio company. So for investors, they don't know what the hell to think, Brian. You just invested.
It's a mixed message.
It is very much a mixed message, and the Barron's article wraps up by saying, so far, Unity has offered little evidence to show that the Weta deal is paying off. So it isn't a surprise that investors are skeptical about Unity's latest billion-dollar-plus deal and whether it can properly integrate the companies. And that is another problem for this as well, is you buy all of these companies, and if you don't integrate them correctly, you are essentially operating two separate companies under one umbrella. The one benefit of acquisitions, Brian, is with no pun intended, unifying resources and combining things, HR departments and payrolls and email and SaaS and all these different things, combining those into one. If you can't do that, and you're paying for two different HR departments and two different payroll things and two different email and digital platforms for, whatever you're using for your project management, all this stuff, you're just bleeding cash. So the question is, how well can they integrate that? But I might pick up some Unity at the start of the market tomorrow morning, because I do think the Unity, and by the way, I'll say this is not investment advice, but the Unity, I think long term, I think Unity's in a really good spot, because again, you can argue with Brian and I and say we're full of it, but mobile gaming is incredibly popular. It's an incredibly, it's not even just popular. It is. I
spend more money on mobile than I do on PC and console. I mean, other than my my Xbox subscription that I do, which gives me tons of games. I spend more money on mobile, and for a lot of people, especially when you're busy, and mobile is just an easier way to play. Yeah. And so I think they're definitely, as you said, definitely a market for it. But when they're purchasing companies like Parsec, which is the game streaming platform, does that make sense for mobile? How many people have? Well,
the only reason Parsec makes sense, you could argue, would be the mobile development side, is that it allows you to develop essentially in the cloud because of its quick time. I mean, but again, how much was that? How much was that
for mobile? That's kind of an odd thing. That's still kind of an odd thing for mobile, because you're not dealing usually with huge amounts of assets. When you want to do something that's like a online platform, that's when you're dealing, especially now with Unreal, dealing with those super high resolution giant graphics. That's difficult to do remotely.
And that was
mobile gaming is easier.
That was a
smaller.
That was a $350 million deal to purchase Parsec. Yes. Now that's nothing near, the 4.4, but that's a lot of money. And Unity said that their plan was to incorporate Parsec software into the Unity engine to support development. That's a lot of money to support development. It's a lot of money.
Yep. And so it is odd, but I mean, as far as I think some of the past ones are odd. This one makes more sense to me. You know, I think the mixed messages is just because of the variety of things they've been doing over time, not necessarily this purchase. It is a mixed message because they're throwing money at, you know, something that's a smaller part of the company earlier, and then they toss a huge amount of money at their prime thing. You know, when they thought, well, maybe we're going to go more for that other type of stuff, and then they throw all their money at something that's totally mobile. I really do think that they need to figure out where the direction is and give a clear message of that, because they're going to lose a lot of people. Because if you're developing a game on PC in Unity, I'd be nervous how much support they're going to do going forward when $4.4 billion is going to something that's almost exclusively mobile type of a product. That would tell me that's their direction. And, you know, and if I'm Rust, I'm a little nervous that they're going to start dropping features or putting less, maybe not dropping features, but putting less emphasis and time into the parts of the engine that I use. That's what I would worry about.
Absolutely. If this was not without even more controversy, I had to pull this article over at Kotaku, Brian. It reads, quote, Unity buys another company as staff fumes over massive layoffs. We covered that last week. I think they laid off 6 or 7% of their company. I'm not going to read the article because it's just stupid. And it obviously goes to show you that the author of this article doesn't really understand that that a company can lay off employees that they no longer need and are no longer essential to the company, and then also acquire a company. It's the old
or
adage,
if they decide they're not going to go a certain direction. Maybe they finally decided mobile. Maybe they've seen the Unreal Engine is just taken off and they can't compete with that part. Well, then take away Unreal's business. Take away the mobile part. Make it so that nobody making a mobile game will go to Unreal, and they'll go to your product because all the features you've added and the things you're doing make sense for it. Then if you're doing that, maybe you're going to lay off some people that are dealing with, you know, purely PC or purely, maybe they were wanting to do the video, you know, the remote streaming or the high quality visual effects and things like that. And now maybe they've decided, well, we can't compete, so let's focus on where we're going to make money so our company stays afloat. That's a smart move if that's what they're doing, regardless of what Kotaku says. Because Kotaku always gets mad if somebody gets laid off because of business.
Yeah, and you know, even in this article, midway through, it says, if you're familiar with Unity's business strategy and would like to chat either on or off the record, my inbox is always open. Here's my Signal and Proton. So, I mean, it's just...
And you guarantee that off the record, and then, you know, they're going to quote something in the next thing saying a secret source inside the company. It could be any random person making up whatever they want, and they'll still post the thing on Kotaku. So, that's what frustrates me.
Well, and it just the headline again that you can't. What's the adage? You can't walk and chew bubble gum. I mean, you can do that as a company. You can acquire other companies and then cut off. And maybe people don't like hearing this, Brian, but there is a thing known as dead weight. And a lot of companies, especially companies the size of Unity that have thousands of employees, there's a lot of dead weight. There's a lot of people that have fallen through the management or middle management crack and have essentially have not had a job for a period of time, and nobody's going to say, hey, I don't have a job when they're cashing a paycheck. At least most people won't. And those people, every once in a while, you need to cut that off. Or again, you've switched your strategy and you no longer need a whole series of developers that do X, Y, or Z. I don't know why this article is indicating that a company like Unity has to keep people employed that no longer fit their business model. That is not a smart business decision. So if you want to talk about business strategy, the business strategy is not employing people that don't profit the company. It's just very odd.
Yeah, Unity's a little less vocal about how they do this. Because if you look, Unreal or Epic, they do things like partner with Disney and say, hey, look, we made Star Wars, whatever Star Wars things on Unreal Engine. And then that's how they get the top people in it to use their product, and they make it look really good, and they have it work really well, and they work and develop it alongside with them to make sure it has all the features they want. And they say, look, and then guess what? All these other smaller companies that are smaller than Disney are going to fall right in line and say, okay, yeah, we'll go use that. If Disney uses it, I'll use it. Or they partner with, what was it? Witcher. Was it was it Witcher that they partner with to do their next big open world
Yeah.
game?
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll partner with Witcher and say, hey, we want to get into open world games. So how about you switch your engine to us? We'll have some of our developers work within your company for you, probably for free, and we will implement whatever features that you find necessary into our engine to make sure it works perfect for you. That's how you sell a company, because they're not going to have to develop it themselves 100%, and they got the total support of Epic. Epic gets a win out of it because they turn around, and who's not going to want to make an open world game that's done, and then they realize, ooh, this even runs better than it did on the previous Witchers, if they can pull that off. I mean, or they develop something crazy in Fortnite, which has tons and tons of players, is one of the biggest games in the world, and they'll throw features into there and say, hey, if it runs on this, it'll run in your game. I don't see that kind of stuff with Unity. So their business strategy is very much more, let's just put products and features into features into our product, and then people can use them. It's a much less, you see these purchases, but you don't really hear them trying to push it by doing something with a giant company and partnering with them. I haven't seen that with, here they're purchasing a company, but they're not partnering with one of the biggest mobile games and saying, hey, look, they used to use some other engine. They use us now, and look how much better it is. Or, let's build something better with mobile gaming, and we'll work with the biggest mobile game to make their game that much better because of the engine. They're not doing that. And I think that hurts them, because it really, as you see, the investor sentiment, and probably, I don't know what the Kotaku, I'm not going to take their word for how the employees feel in the company.
Well, here's the thing. I'm sure the employees are relatively pissed. I mean, if 4% of the workforce gets laid off, I mean, that definitely hurts morale. There's
insecurity
no
is what it brings. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Insecurity in your job.
But that's not
I think that this company needs to. No, but I think they really need to either. I mean, if this is working for them, keep doing this, but maybe get a little more vocal about why they're a good platform for mobile development, because they are. But do you hear them saying it? No, you just know a lot of games use it. They're not really great at advertising themselves, and I think that causes a lot of instability and people worrying, because it's a great platform for mobile. It's an excellent platform for mobile. But we know that because we're into this kind of news, and we look at what Unity really does. Your average person on the street doesn't know, but you know what? Your average kid knows that Epic makes really good games.
Yeah, they love
right?
Fortnite.
They love Fortnite. Unity does not sell themselves, and it hurts them in the end.
Yeah. So there's a lot to read through all of these different articles. If you're kind of a business or business nerd or whatever and want to check those out, you can find those on our website, infectionpodcast.com. Where do we go from here? Got kind of an eclectic. There is an interesting story about Rockstar. As they move towards,
we could totally go there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not really a lot to say, but there was a report out late last week that Red Dead Online is going to be kind of moved to the back burner as Rockstar really ramps up production of, presumably ramps up production of GTA 6. We don't know that to be the case, but I think it's a safe bet to say that that's what they're going to be doing. In the past, they say that they noted that the migration of development resources to the latest entry into the Grand Theft Auto series would have impacts on other games. The Red Dead Online portion of the blog begins with an attempt to set expectations. It reads, over the past few years, we have been steadily moving more development resources towards the next entry in the Grand Theft Auto series, understanding more than ever the need to exceed players' expectations and for the next entry to be the best it can possibly be. As a result, we are in the process of making some changes to how we support Red Dead Online. I can't imagine, Brian, Red Dead Online has... I don't even know what there's got to be some player base because they're still actively developing it, but I haven't heard of anybody that's playing Red.
It feels like a mess.
I'm going to look at Twitch and see if anybody's playing.
Because when I tried playing Red Dead Online a few times after having completed the whole story campaign, and it just didn't. There was no direction. It just felt like mostly what it was is you pick up this package and you try to race it to this other place before another player kills you. Well, that just wasn't fun. And there's people doing all kinds of weird things in it, and you just get shot randomly, and then if you make the police officers mad, they chase you, and it was a mess. It wasn't like GTA Online, which seemed like there was a little bit more variety and things to do.
There's something called Wild RP. I'm trying to. All right, Wild RP appears to be what a lot of people, or not a lot, what people are playing on Twitch, I should say, is this Wild RP, which appears to be some sort of Red Dead Redemption online multiplayer thing, similar to what
a role playing. It's a role playing community. So is it kind of like what they do with 5M and things like that?
I do believe so. Their website is incredibly convoluted. It just doesn't say what they are. But that's what it looks like it is. And I see a couple of people on Twitch that are saying that's what they're playing. So I guess there is some level of that in there. And
for a role-playing community, it makes sense because it's an immersive experience. That's what role players like. It's something where, and I think if Red Dead was smart, focus on that, because what keeps some features going with GTA is the role-playing community. It has a lot of people that stay interested in the game, and this would work, but I just don't feel like there's enough variety in role-playing without them giving a little bit of help, to make it to where it's an easy platform to do that in.
Yeah, now this stuff's obviously on the PC, not the console, obviously. But you can see in here, it looks like there's a couple of other people in this room with him. Not sure exactly what's going on. But so for whatever for whatever is being used in Red Dead Online, according to this Twitch, there's about 19,000 people watching it right now. Most of that is in this one viewer, this one channel, I should say, that's got, of course, this channel that's got just over 9,000 viewers right now. So that's that, I guess.
Well, and okay, well let's kind of look at what Rockstar is doing though, because for instance, they purchased, was it Zynga that they purchased in the beginning of this year?
They purchased Zynga?
Take-Two, who owns Rockstar, purchased Zynga to go to more of a mobile, because remember when they released their those the remasters kind of thing on the mobile, and it was a disaster. The heads were all crazy, and just everything was nuts.
The Switch, I think it was really, really bad on the Switch.
Yeah, and so I think for them, they recently removed GTA Vice City Mobile, that port, from the Play Store. I think that they're kind of refocusing. Yes, they removed it, and I personally think that they're redoing it because they third-partied that out, and as you can see, it was very poorly done. And them talking about quality and maintaining a certain standard. Well, that's what I think of as maintaining a certain standard. That mobile port that they did was horrible, and it did not stand up to what Rockstar usually puts out. And I think with Zynga having a truly like one of the original mobile platforms and developers being in their company, make it to where you re-release all those on mobile, because those old games are perfect on mobile. Like, figure out where your bread and butter is. Release all the original GTAs and make them run perfectly on mobile. And then for online, they're getting ready. They're going to be going to that kind of generic GTA Online and stepping away from this GTA 5 Online and having it tied to anything. I think they're kind of trying to re-image and get it to where everything is just better. Because, Red Dead, their online, it was not enjoyable. And it kind of made people realize Rockstar is not a bulletproof company. And then, they tried to put out a mobile game, and it was horrible. And then, that continues to make people think that they're not as good, because everybody thought Rockstar can't release a game that's not perfect. I mean, everything they release seems to be great, is what they thought until Red Dead's online.
But I want to say this, because I think it's important to know. I think Red Dead Online was a situation with too much in terms of expectations from the consumer. Mm-hmm. I think anybody that thought that Red Dead Redemption Online was going to be as dynamic and as long-term and all of this stuff in comparison to GTA was fooling themselves, Brian. That just based on the story, the time frame, what you've got in terms of
there's no jets flying through the sky, there's no helicopters, machine guns. Yeah, it was a much different atmosphere instead of tools. Yeah. But the problem is they tried to clone GTA Online and say, "Oh, let's do something very similar for Red Dead." I don't think they ever should have done that. I think what they should have done is figure out what would have worked for Red Dead and make something that's an online version of that. I think if they would have had broken up their whole map to where you could purchase land and you could go and settle it, and it was more of that kind of a game, that would have been a better Red Dead Online. Not this little mini games that they tried to do. Because mini games works when you have helicopters, race cars, machine guns. You can do all these crazy things. You can rob banks. It does not work when you're using the Old West with a big open world that's spread out.
Yeah.
You can rob a bank, but it's just not the same. I think that's where they really kind of dropped the ball, was trying to do it too much like GTA Online.
These graphics
it just doesn't fit. Yeah.
This doesn't look like the game at all, from what I remember.
Well, I'm not sure. It looks like they're in is that Louisiana? I don't know. I mean, that's in their map, but
maybe I didn't get to this point. But it just
that may be in the city or whatever.
Yeah,
it just depends.
So yeah, you can see this. I mean, this is what people are doing right now with Red Dead Online. So
yeah, and it's just, I mean, I just really think they didn't think it through. They just figured it would work doing it the way they did it before, and it didn't.
Yeah,
because when you go on there, they've tried different game modes. Shoot as many turkeys as you can. How fun is that for how many hours?
Well, I know you and I played it for, and this at this point was like probably almost 3 years ago. So take that for what it's worth. But you and I played it for a little bit, and we did a couple of the races and did some other things. And after about, and Brian, when in the past when we've played games, we've done hours long game sessions, and that's not an uncommon thing. And I felt like after about 45 minutes, you and I were just kind of like,
yeah, it's like, what do we do now?
Okay,
I don't really feel like doing this other stuff.
Yeah, like all right, I guess I'm gonna go get some dinner. I'll talk to you later. Maybe we'll play again, and we never did. we never touched it again after that. So it was a bit unfortunate.
And as someone who loved the map, I'd go through and probably play Red Dead 2 again, just to kind of go around it. But the only problem is I've done almost all the quests, so there wouldn't be anything new. What they should, or continue it to where you do DLCs for this. Make more quests, because there was so much to do. Keep expanding the world. Quit trying to come up with an online, gimmicky thing. Just make it to where the game continues, because you're continuing to add content, because that's what people liked about the game, was the kind of crazy quests, the amazing detail. I was showing our boys I was showing our boys a video where there was this kid who's skipping rocks, and talking about this girl that he loves and how he wants to marry her. And then you go up and kind of talk to him, and he goes and I guess marries her, because you go back to 5 years later in the game, because they're in the regular game, there's time, time passes. Mm-hmm. And 5 years later, you go to near that spot, and he's there complaining about his wife. And how he wants to leave her. And it's the same girl. That kind of detail, where there's the same dude who's now 5 years age progressed, talking about the same kind of storyline. That was the cool stuff that I love finding in this game. They added, some hunting challenges and things like that. No, I want the cool Easter eggs, things where you're searching, you're going around the map and you're just following people. That was the stupid thing that I kept doing, was following people, because I love seeing that they actually had a whole routine for their day. That made sense. They went to the store. They went and did this. They went to work. And then, and you can see this, or there's a story that you do a cutscene, because in almost every other game, it doesn't work like this. You follow a cutscene, you do a whole quest, and then the person leaves. If they say, I'm going to go and do this. Well, if you follow them, guess what? They actually go and do that. And if you take the time to follow them through the whole thing, they'll go to their house. And if they said, I'm going to go kill my wife, if they go to their house, guess what? That's what they're going to do. And if you interrupt them, you can change what happens in the story. And you could stop him from killing his wife. You could watch him kill his wife. And all of the different ways of doing it played out. That's what I loved. Not Red Dead Online, where it was so gimmicky and small and short-sighted is what I saw it as. Because the other stuff was awesome. That's the way to make a video game. Red Dead Online was just, why do I don't want to do PvP in Red Dead Online. I didn't find it enjoyable. With old school guns that didn't fire, that didn't aim very well and were very limited.
Yeah, you want to read more about that? There are links that are on our website at infectionpodcast.com. All right, Brian, where to next?
Well, okay, let's go ahead and jump to, we've got some Daybreak news. Is, it's not a huge thing, but they did file for a trademark on a game called Myths and Monoliths. So Myths and Monoliths, they specify it as a multiplayer role-playing real-time computer and video game. So I'm not sure. They say it's an entirely new IP, and it's going to exist in their MMORPG suite, from what we can tell.
So like their Marvel versus Capcom, like whatever those games they've got now, PlanetSide, all those other things.
Yes, something like that. So they're going to be making a new game. We have a link to, it's a Reddit page, but it has a screenshot of the trademark document, and so. Maybe they've been quiet for a long time. So I saw Daybreak on the news. I was like, whoa, Daybreak's doing something. It's very, as you can see, generic at the moment, but it'd be interesting to see if they actually come up, because they do certain things okay at Daybreak when they're dealing with old technology, or, the games are not cutting edge by any means. But I think if they make something that kind of fits into what they do, they can make something that some people will buy. Hopefully they don't use their engine. I mean, if they use their engine, I think they're sunk.
You don't think Forge Light 2 is up to snuff in 2022?
No. So I'm really curious. If they do release something, is it going to be on a mainstream engine? Have they learned their lesson? Is my question.
No. I'll make my bet right now, Brian. The answer is no.
I'll make sure I write that down in our little black book here.
Nick says no. Yeah, that's
Nick says no. Whatever Daybreak is making, even though we know no details, no.
But here's the thing. But we do know details, because we have the Marvel MMO that was supposed to come out, that was on, then canceled, then back on, never ended up coming to fruition.
Yep.
All of their other MMOs, like EverQuest, are 25 years old. PlanetSide 2 came out in 2011. The Lord of the Rings Online, they didn't develop; they purchased after the fact, and now now manage it. They haven't built a new IP since. What was the one after? What was the one after H1Z1 that was supposed to be that building game? The trailer had those stupid.
Was it EverQuest 2 or EverQuest Next?
EverQuest Next. That was supposed to be.
They were supposed to
make
EverQuest Next.
Yeah, and that was gonna. And even though even though that's not a quote new IP, it was a pretty
new technology.
It was a reinvention of EverQuest.
Yes.
And then at one point they were going to spin it off into a separate game that was some. Remember, it was some building and claiming game where you would like.
Well, that was like a prototype. So they released a game that was kind of getting it into people's hands so they could start testing it, and it let them build assets for the main product. I just look at Daybreak, and there's so many dropped balls and missed opportunities for that company.
Landmark was the name of the game.
Landmark, yeah, was the little side project they did. I cannot believe that they have not done more to try to monetize EverQuest. Because if they actually fire their whole development studio and started fresh with one that knows how to make a modern game, on that IP or let some other company develop it for them. I would love to play a 2022 dated as far as technology.
Well, you can. Here's
something
the
EverQuest.
Here's their 2022 roadmap. A 64-bit server and client release in February.
Yeah, I mean they finally got to 64-bit. that is great.
Nice.
New UI engine, anti-cheat improvements. I mean, there's nothing really there that shows me that they're doing something cool. EverQuest still looks like crap. It looks old. In 2022, the things that are releasing now for EverQuest look like they were made in 1998 and 1999 still. And so that, for me, if they actually made, like they were kind of trying to do with EverQuest Next, made something that was modern, so many people my age would love to buy and play that, because the universe was cool, the community was cool, but it just got too dated and it's too hard to play. I would try to play it however many years ago. This is what it looks like.
This video was uploaded in November. Is this really what the game looks like right now?
Yes, this is what the game looks like today. This is today. This is what they've updated it to. That's their new UI. You understand? I could make something better
no, I don't
in a
understand.
weekend.
This doesn't make sense. I don't understand.
Yeah, I know. This is what frustrates me. Whenever people talk about EverQuest, their new DLCs still look like this. Why would someone my age want to go back and play something that looks like 1999? I don't. I like I want the world.
Looks awful.
Yeah, this is their new technology.
Look
how the characters run. Yes, it is the worst. I wanted to go back and I was like, oh, they must have updated some things. They must have made it better. I'd like to go play some of the old stuff and have it be, a little more modern and go see some of the old worlds reimagined. No. It looks identical to what I played in this exact room back in 2000. I played that game in the year 2000 in this room. Right over there, right back there, in that corner. And it looked just like that. I bought this house 22 years ago. The game looks identical. You understand? I mean, it's just insane.
You have a full family living with you now, and EverQuest still.
I have a whole family. A full family living with me now. I bought it when I was in college,
and now
the game has not changed one bit. Half of my life ago.
Over
half of my life.
Look at this! Look at this!
Yes, that's what it still looks like. It is so bad. It is horrible.
I'll give you $100 if you can guess the name of this video. And it came out in January of this year.
Running Man? I don't know.
No, the title of the video is Why You Should Play EverQuest in 2022.
And Kramit loves EverQuest. But Kramit's played EverQuest for 22 years. And so he's got the problem is he has a huge community of people that he's played with all that time, that it's hard to leave that kind of community that you just have gotten to know so well. I understand that. But shame on EverQuest, shame on Daybreak for not even putting a single improvement into their game in 22 years. A single improvement. Can you tell me an improvement? I mean, go look at screenshot. You can find a screenshot from 2000 on let me see, EverQuest 2000 screenshot, and it'll look almost identical.
I cannot believe the running looks like this.
Yes, they haven't improved it. They haven't even worked on it. They make something. They put money back into it back then, and now it's done Daybreak style. But
isn't there other
where
game,
they sit there and just monetize it?
Didn't EverQuest 2 come out? Does anybody play that or no?
It doesn't look. There is, but it doesn't look that much better, and it still looks like the 2003 or something when they put that one out. It looks kind of like that.
Yeah, here's a video: the worst MMO ever, EverQuest 2. And I mean this looks significant. Oh shit! This looks significantly better, but still not great.
But I'm saying, that was made.
This reminds
4
me
years
of,
later, or something. 5 years later.
This reminds me of Guild Wars, which came out, over a decade ago.
Yes, but this problem is EverQuest 2 still looks like this. Because their engine is the same crappy engine for 22 years. What are you going to do about it? And it does look better, but not as many people switched over to this.
You know what they should have done? They should have done, and I think this is part of what EverQuest Next was going to attempt to do, was do a hybrid between World of Warcraft Remaster and a new game. And that's what EverQuest Next was going to be. It was going to be the modern 21st century
lore,
MMO.
The world. Yeah.
It's a shame that never came to fruition.
Because now, like, for instance, these games, there's a huge world. There's a tons of cool stuff to do. Make it a mobile game. Get rid of that whole crazy, stupid interface. Simplify it. Make it to where, because that's the hard part. When I went in, my character's still there from 22 years ago.
I'm sure.
I do know it is. I installed the client, logged in, and it's still there. And I was in the middle of some forest where there's houses and trees. I couldn't even move around. I couldn't cast a spell because I was like, what in the world? What buttons did I push? Because you know what I had then? I had a keyboard that showed me every single little button and what it did. And now I don't remember. Do I push F or G to run? Do I push K to cast this spell? Do I push T to pack? Because there's no help on the screen. You saw that interface.
Yeah,
it was a mess.
This is some of the video from EverQuest Next, which was canned at this point. Probably
was going to be way better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, what it would have really looked like. Who can only imagine? When they actually released it, but it looks way better on the surface, and I had hope for it.
I need to go. I'm gonna go play EverQuest at some point because I can't. I have to.
Start from the beginning.
It looks worse than RuneScape, and RuneScape is a flash.
My first character was a barbarian. I think it was or a warrior. I don't remember. Was a melee tank type of character. Another fun was a warlock. Try a warlock. You can have companions that'll fight with you. Things like that. It was a lot of fun. I loved that game, but I loved it 22 years ago. I expect a very different game now, and what they provide you is identical. And nostalgia is different.
I'll tell you this.
I don't want to play the same game.
I don't know if this website is accurate at all, mmostats.com, but according to this, they've got 17,000 active daily players. That's a lot for a game that is 23 years old. It came out in March of 1999.
There is a community that is hardcore that plays it. That's probably one of the only reasons Daybreak is still successful.
I know, but that's still a large community to have after 23 years. So, I mean, you go and look at the
they release the DLC almost every year.
Yeah, well, and that was on the roadmap. But you look at Steam DB just for the hell of it, and see what's going on. I mean, you've got games that are games that are significantly newer that are reaching 17,000, players a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like Fallout 4, for example. Now I know Fallout 4 is not brand new, but a game like Fallout 4 has about 17,000 daily players. Red Dead Redemption 2 on PC only has about 20,000 daily players. Civ 5, 18,000 daily players. So it's right up there.
Imagine how much content there is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
22 years worth of expansions.
Yeah.
But look at how much is wasted. Because you're making it such a niche audience. It's so hard to get into because the interface is so bad. Only the people that have been playing for 22 years remember how to play the game. And so you get in there, and it's too much of a burden for a new player to get it. You'll find out. Try it. Play it. You'll find out. It's so difficult to play. The interface is so just janky that how are they going to bring in new players? You're only continuing and holding on to 17,000 people that are left out of the hundreds of thousands, whatever, that played it back originally, over time. And I wanted to go back and play it, but it was unplayable. And I think if they made it to where it was more modern, redo the engine enough to make it so it can have at least a halfway decent UI. I mean, you can't put in the resources in 22 years of expansions to put one person on working on the UI. One person. You can't hire one person when you put in a whole expansion out every year to work on UI. Because if one person was working on UI for 22 years, that thing would be nice. You can't tell me anybody's touched that UI.
I based on the video I just saw, it's hard to argue. If there is somebody out there that is listening and does play EverQuest and we are dead wrong and whatever, let us know. Send us a message on Discord, comment on YouTube, or send us an email, contact@infectionpodcast.com. But it's very interesting to say the least.
Hey, so there's a new survival game that got announced. Do you want to look at that really quick?
Sure.
So this is an open world Terminator survival game that they announced.
When you say
if
they, what does that mean?
Well, Nacon, whoever that is, I'd have to look and see what else. But the Terminator world is actually pretty cool. Have you watched the Terminator films?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, absolutely. Recently,
and if you think about,
have I watched them yet?
Not recently, but if you kind of know the story a bit, there's some pretty cool stuff about the future just being falling apart, and
Skynet, the whole thing. Yeah,
Skynet. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of story to it that you could really build up on. But they're doing a Terminator Survivor project, and they did a reveal trailer. Do you want to play that, and let's see what people think, and as far as the graphics, see if it's something that people would be interested in playing.
I mean, 24 seconds.
That was it. Yeah,
it shows us seconds of it is the intro and the outro.
I mean, it looks kind of modern, but
I mean, come on.
There you go. That was it. That's your open world survival game of Terminator. Now, if you look at like Judgment Day took place in 1995, 97, 2003, 2004, 2011, 2017, or 2021. With the timelines, they could make some pretty cool. And then they had the real, because this was filmed in the past, representing the future. They could do some really cool things with this world, especially with having robots, because the AI and things like that. You could do some cool things where they're hunting you. That seems more realistic.
I think about oh man, come on, Zero. It's kind of not. It's not Terminator, but Zero's got
it's got that robots are trying to kind of eradicate all the humans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of a thing works for a survival game because it's good AI that's believable. Because if they're a little bit robotic, that's wow. The AI of a robot is supposed to be robotic. A lot of times with survival games, it's hard when they bring in AI of what's supposed to look like a real person, because it just never looks like a real person. It doesn't feel. So in a survival game where you feel like you're being hunted by somebody, not very many. The Last of Us, was it 2? Was that the most recent one they did, Last of Us 2? That one, the AI wasn't bad as far as the people kind of chasing you. That was pretty good. But that wasn't an open world game. They may claim that it was it wasn't, because it was done in sections. You could only be in certain sections. So it's easy to have AI kind of follow a path to do certain things and look kind of realistic and chase you in a very small, limited environment. When you go to open world, it gets very difficult. But if you look at Terminator, part of it is you have Terminators kind of wandering around trying to find humans to kill them. Perfect. That's the good start of an open world survival game. And then, they were hiding in bunkers. They were hiding underground. Expand on that. Like, that's a good start to a really good survival game. And I think what we've really lacked are unique concepts for survival games that allow it to feel like it should. Because not very many games in the survival world usually feel like you're trying to actually survive. And I think that's kind of their downfall. If you get it to where when you go outside you're being hunted, that's a survival game. You have to get resources when you're out there while you're being hunted to then get back and get back to your bunker. That's a survival game. Whether or not they go that way, we'll have to see. Because as you saw, their trailer, shows a few things, but it doesn't really tell you anything of what it's about. So I'm hoping for more news. But I see promise. I'm not like I watch these movies all the time and really into it, but I do appreciate the lore and the things that they have behind it, in how it could fit into this kind of a game.
Yeah,
it would fit, and I like the fact that they're doing an open world survival game rather than the cutscenes, because cutscenes work. That's how most of the old Terminator games that I've ever played, were mostly console games, but they were very boxed in, and that's not what the future of Terminator was. If you look at the scenes, they had giant war scenes where just tons of dead people everywhere, and things flying in the sky searching for people to kill. Like, That sounds like a survival game to me. So I see hope in this if they do it right.
I see hope in it as well, and I will do a little bit of foreshadowing to next week. There are a couple of new survival games that are being talked about and being announced. There's 9 of them specifically. We'll take a look at those next week. Unless there's any like crazy breaking news that takes up the whole show, but we'll take a look at those next week and discuss some of that. As there does seem to be somewhat, maybe a little bit of a resurgence in this genre.
People are interested in it.
Yeah.
Valheim did a good job of reminding developers that people want to play survival. Now it's single player. People love that game. There is an audience for it, but most of the survival games that have been released in the last 10 years, or 5 years at least, are they something to talk about? Rust is been around for a long time. Ark has been around for a long time. There's not a lot of recent survival games that have stuck because so many people went to battle royales and kind of went away from the focus. And I think they kind of forgot what a survival game is.
Yeah.
There is, what's the one that I love so much that's about being cold? Lone Dark?
Yeah,
Is it Lone Dark?
Long
Dark. Sorry, Long Dark.
Yeah.
That is a survival game. And that one has done very well. They did a good job. But that's one of the few in the last 5 years that came out. That's really a survival game. Most of them are a kind of a combination of a survival game and a battle royale because of that whole craze that took it over. I think we need to go back. Battle royale is now its own genre. Make that its own thing. Bring survival games back and quit trying to dilute it with something else.
Agreed. All right. We good? Yeah, we are out of time. Brian, I'll say congratulations again. And
thank you very much.
Tell folks where they can find you everywhere online minus Twitter.
All right, if you want to find me at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, Getter, Truth Social, or you go to my blog, biteoftech.com, and I've got contact links on there, ways you can get a hold of me. If you want to get a hold of us, I would go to infectionpodcast.com, go to the right-hand side, and join our server on Discord. There's places where you can chat with us, message us, any questions. There's a news channel, great place to submit news topics and be able to influence the direction of the show. Perhaps there's a survival game that you think we're not going to talk about next week that's, maybe you're excited about that you don't think people realize is coming. Put a message on there. Let us know about that, and we'll include that in the list of shows of games that we talk about. If you want to watch the live version of the show, you can do that through Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive, and those are recorded and be able to watch some of those after the fact. But if you're going to listen to it, then on the lower right, you have to wait till after the show's done, and we do upload a podcast for that. You can subscribe to it on all kinds of different platforms. If you are going to listen to it, I encourage you to go to the particular episode show notes for that episode, and we'll have links of each topic and thing that we've talked about throughout that you can follow along. And if you're listening, maybe watch a video while we play it. Refer to a source link or an article while we talk about it. It's really useful for that. And I think I hope to amplify, what you get out of the show. If you want to support us, you get the support option up top in the menu, or go to infectionpodcast.com/support. We got Prime Gaming subs, Humble Bundle, a lot of different ways that, an Amazon link. They got the Prime Day sales going on right now. A lot of different ways you can support us. And hopefully, actually, we didn't talk about, there are some other things with some of the conventions and things coming out that we kind of skip, but we'll get some of that information next week because it's not around the corner.
Yeah, so, it looks like one of the big gaming events could be coming back with a new partner behind it, which is could be exciting, could not be, depending on how it all rolls out. Yeah. So, Brian, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated, and again, congratulations to you and your lovely wife.
All right, yep. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Talk to you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on another edition, a Wednesday edition of Infection. We'll be back next Tuesday, same bat place, same bat time. If you want to check out my daily political rantings, you can visit my website, nickcraig.com. You'll also find a link to all of my various social media platforms, or social media profiles, I should say, on there as well. If you missed any portion of today's show, I recommend you head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.